Welcome back guys. So today I am releasing the T-8 turret a little bit earlier than planned because it's basically finished already, and I didn't want to keep you guys waiting because by the time I finish a showcase video or a new ship it's going to take forever, and it's basically done, so I might as well just release it now. And blueprint details will be in the description, and I'll also be releasing this ship here as well. It's just a free sample ship. It's not a very good ship, it's just a rough conversion of a Jaeger torso, and I just added some maneuver thrusters and quickly slapped on a cockpit from another ship onto it. So it's, you know, it's not that great. You can modify the ship if you want. But the turret though, if you do use the turret, make sure you give credit to Commando Doggo on YouTube only if someone asks. Don't claim it as your own, and you're free to use it. Okay, so let's get into the guide. Okay, so this is the blueprint. We've got the big turret, that's one module, and that's just the structure, and then I have the YOLO separated here. And this goes with the turret, this huge YOLO rack. I know it's a lot of YOLO, and you can use that with the relay device there if you want to add more than one turret. This basically just separates it so that it operates by itself and doesn't interact with another turret's YOLO. So you don't need to use that if you only got one turret, but if you want to have two turrets you need to use this. And here we have the master control YOLO rack. This can go anywhere on your ship, connected to your ship network. It doesn't matter how many turrets you have, you only need one of this, and that's just the master controls that controls all the turrets, this smaller YOLO rack. And then we have the master control panel, which also controls all the turrets, and you only need one of these. So if you want to make duplicates, we'll get to that later in the video. If you want to have two turrets, I'll do a little bit on that. For now we're just going to set up one turret. And also one turret uses 3,700 cables, pipes and ducts. You could probably reduce that if you go inside the turret and fill around and recycle a few things. It's not 100% optimized. I did optimize it a bit though already, but it's not 100%. And if we have a quick look inside the turret, you'll see that I've left some empty spaces, empty hardpoints, and you can place extra guns here. Auto cannons on these spaces if you want to increase the auto cannons, but I wouldn't put too many weapons on this because the turret isn't that sturdy, and you know, you don't want all your weapons relying on one turret, especially since the autonomous feature doesn't actually aim as good as an actual player, so I wouldn't put all my weapons onto it. But you can use it with manual fire. And then you have the hatch here. You can go inside the hatch, there's a button. And down below, if you crawl in here, you have two large ammo crates and you can store ammo inside, and then you've got one plasma ammo which is stored on the actual plasma gun. Okay, so once we've got the blueprint open, we're just going to select the turret or the YOLO or all of it at once even, and just CLTL-C to copy, and then we're going to open our blueprint of your ship, wherever your ship is that you want to put it on. And make sure when you place it that you place it backwards, because that's kind of the default position of the turret, backwards from where your ship is facing. So here I have a very old ship here, tier 1 ship I made a long time ago, never quite finished it and used it, and I just use it as a test ship just to demonstrate. And I just have a very bad bare back here with nothing on it. Just ripped a hole in the ship, and it's just as simple as copy and pasting the turret onto your blueprint. Okay, and that's CRTL-V to paste, in case you didn't know. Okay, so now that we've pasted everything into our new blueprint, we're just going to select the turret, and one by one we're just going to attach it all to the ship. Okay, so when we select our turrets, we might have to turn the transform tool, auto snap tool, off on the top right. And because this won't snap to the ship because the object's too big, and huge objects generally don't snap automatically, and we'll just have to manually drag it in as close as we can so that it's touching the beams of your ship. But sometimes you can't get it to touch the beams of your ship because when you try to move a large object, it usually moves in large increments, meaning that sometimes it just ends up with a small gap and you just can't fill that gap. If that happens and there's a tiny gap between your beams and your turret and you just can't move it in anymore, then in that case you have two options. You can move the entire ship a small bit and then try and readjust, or you can use the new weld blobs that came out with the latest large update. And with the weld blobs, you can use those to fill in gaps. You just place them in between two beams and they will weld them together and fill in that gap. So I'm just going to place some of these large weld blocks to fill in those tiny gaps between the turrets and the ship. So now that the beams are truly cemented to the ship. Okay, next up we just have to attach the YOLO racks onto the ship, and we can bolt that on any way we want. I've purposely put two large plates on the top and bottom of the large YOLO rack set, so that's just as easy as bolting the plates to the ship with lots of bolts, and that's it. And then we have the small YOLO rack here, which we can just auto bolt to the ship because that's not that heavy. Bolt that down, and then both YOLO racks, if we're just using one turret, then both YOLO racks can just connect directly to the ship's network, and it's just as easy as just pasting it down and connecting it to the ship. And lastly we have the control panel, which can also go anywhere on the ship, but preferably you want the control panel to be merged with your cockpit so that you can actually activate the turrets from your cockpit of your ship. And one more thing to note, if you're using multiple turrets, or if you're just using one even, there's IFF on this turret with passwords. There's two password screens, and you can't make duplicates of the password screens on the control panel. If you make duplicates, the YOLO doesn't work properly, and then the whole IFF system won't work properly. So you can only have one copy of the password screens on the control panel here. Okay, once we've bolted the control panel onto the ship, we just have to connect a wire to any one of those two slots, and the control panel now has power. And I almost forgot, we need to add a wire and cable from the turret, back of the turret here, where we welded it to the ship. From those ducts, just connect them to the ship. That's it. And if you're using two turrets, it will work a tiny bit differently, and we'll get to that later in the video. So for now, for just one turret, we just simply connect pipe and cable to our ship's power, and that's it, because the turret doesn't have its own cooling, so it needs pipe and it needs cooling. Okay, so that's it. It should have power from the ship and pipe cooling, and all we have to do now is just turn it on and it should work. Okay, and I forgot to mention also, you only need one wire to go into the YOLO racks, and one wire into any one of the bottom YOLO racks powers all the attached YOLO racks. So that just has one wire on the bottom there, and all the YOLO racks are powered. So it's just as simple as bolting the YOLO racks onto your ship and giving them power with the wire, and same with the control panel. And here's the control panel. You have multiple different settings, and you have an ammo read here, which you can read the ammo. The ammo reading, I don't think that works properly if you have more than one turret installed, but that's okay, you don't have to read the ammo. It's not essential. I haven't fixed that yet. And we just press auto, and now the ship is working. So it's just as simple as just welding the turret onto the ship, onto the back of the ship, and bolting the YOLO racks anywhere on the ship, doesn't matter, and bolting the control panel anywhere on the ship, and then just adding wires to those things, and also a pipe to the turret for cooling, and that's it, done. This turret isn't shooting much now because the ship doesn't have any heat sinks because it's old. And just a quick show of the controls here, because you should have already seen the controls on my preview video, but here's controls again. You have front or back on the right, the direction you want the turret to face. If I press front and then I press the auto, it will now face forward with the ship, and it will scan with the auto mode just like before, but it's facing forwards. The front auto mode doesn't work as well as the back auto mode when it comes to aiming lower down. For some reason, when the turret goes lower than 180 degrees down, so lower than where the cockpit's facing, the rotator values kind of invert, and I'm not really sure why it does that, and the turret aim just becomes a little bit messed up, but it still works, but it's just not as good as when it's facing backwards. And you also have manual fire, so when you press the manual button on the control panel, it will turn the turret forwards automatically, and the turret will just aim half a degree down so that it converges with your ship a little bit, and it will just fire whenever you press the fire button that's on your ship. In order for manual to work though, you have to, the main fire button of your ship has to just be called fire, because that's just the YOLO I set. It works with the variable name called fire, so as long as the fire button of your ship is just called fire, then the manual mode of the turret will work with it. It will shoot with the ship when you press fire and you have manual turned on. Okay, and we'll go over the IFF system now. So lastly is an untested friendly fire system that may or may not work with other players. I don't know yet, haven't tried it yet. And in order for it to work, the other ship, the friendly ship in question, has to just have a laser designator installed on their ship, just pointed at themselves at the wall of their own ship, it doesn't matter where, and it has to be turned on, and it has to have the same ID or identifier in the value as one of the two password boxes on your turret control panel. So this is part of the turret control panel, I just haven't merged with the ship cockpit here, and you have these two password boxes, password 1 and password 2, and whatever is set on those passwords will be your password. And you can just press one button, randomize, on the control panel, and it'll just give you a random password that I made up. And as long as they share the same password, the laser designator of the allied ship there has the same ID identifier as one of your passwords on your password screens on your control panel, then the turret will recognize it as a friendly and it will avoid shooting at it. So here's just a quick demonstration. I'm going over to the friendly ship, this small little ship I have here. I'm going to go to where the laser designator is installed, facing this ship. I'm just going to turn it on, and it has the ID ally. That was the ID on there, I know you might have missed it. So your identifier is ally. That's just an example, it can be anything, 1, 2, 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's just the password on there. I'm going to go into the main ship with the turret that's installed, and I'm going to go on where the turret control panel is and the password screen. I'm just going to manually make my own password by facing one of the two password screens and just pressing U to open my universal tool, and I'm just going to change the password value to ally. So now it reads ally on the first box there, and this turret can only spot two different allies at once, the two boxes, or one very big ally that has a laser designator on either end of their ship. Because IFF works by avoiding a certain angle, so now I've turned the turret on, and normally it would shoot anything, but as soon as it faces the direction of the ship, it should just show a green light and ignore the ship, because they both have the same identifier, which is ally. So the laser tracker is turned on the ship with the password ally, identifier ally, and the turret password box also reads ally, so it will now just ignore it, and I can fly straight through the lasers. As you can see, there's a green light on the turret there as soon as it approaches, and it's not shooting me because we have the same password. And if someone catches your password, all you have to do is just hit the randomize button on the turret password screen, and randomize button is just a little button I made that just gives you a random password really quickly, and just in case someone steals your password. And the turret will still shoot anything else that doesn't have the password. So if I just go into my ship here and the ally just changes their password for some reason, or they turn their laser designator off, then the turret will now just see it like any other object. It's just going to shoot it when the lasers spot me. So now it's just going to kill me. So that's it, that's how it works. You've seen it already in previous videos. You just need to share the same password as the turret password on the control panel, and it will avoid the angle of where you are at, and it will still shoot any other objects that it spots. So if we want to set up two turrets on one ship or more, well, you can only have two at the moment, Then we just need to copy these two parts, so that's the big YOLO rack with the network relay and the turret, and that's it, just the turret and the big YOLO rack and the network relay device. And we only need one copy of each of these, the smaller YOLO rack set and the control panel, just one copy of each of those. And we need to, when we put it on a ship, we just put it on a ship as normal, but we use this network relay device here, that small little device thing, rectangle. We put a wire into the back of it, to the back of the arrows. The arrows need to point towards your YOLO racks, towards your turret, and then a wire out the other end of the device into the YOLO racks, and then from there, from the YOLO racks into the back of the turret, and that's it. That will have its own YOLO, and it's separated by the network relay system so that it works by itself and it doesn't interact with the ship or anything else. And then we only need one pipe connection going to the main ship as normal. The pipe remains unchanged, that's just to get cooling from the main ship, so that will connect to the main ship as normal. But the wire goes only into the network relay device, into the YOLO racks, and then into the turret, and not from the ship. So from the ship to the network relay, and then into the YOLO racks, and then into the turret. And I'll just show you a quick example. This is a big ship I'm working on. There's a weakness I might as well mention now. For some reason the turrets actually really struggle to spot really small targets like that tiny thing that are like station hopper sized. But it can still spot small fighters, just really small stuff that's like a station hopper it kind of struggles with. So yeah, here's an example ship that I'm still working on. So I have two turrets on the back coming out either end. And I, just like I explained, I have the two large YOLO racks on the sides there, tucked in the back of the ship, near the back of the ship on the sides. And they're separated by a network relay device, so they operate separately. So here's on the other side, we have another one, see, for the other turret. And that's separated by a network relay here. Wire goes from the ship into the network relay. Forward arrows point towards the YOLOs, into the YOLO racks, out the YOLO rack, and straight onto the turret's connection. And the turret isn't connected any other way to the ship other than that one wire from the whole network relay system there. And as usual, the pipes, doesn't matter the pipes can go to the main ship connection because that's just for cooling. And if we go to the back of the ship here, I just have one copy of the smaller control set here. This is just to control the controls. So we just have one copy of that, the smaller YOLO rack set, and just one copy of the control panel, which I have merged with the cockpit. So now the turrets should operate separately. If this one on the left here shoots me, the one on the right is not shooting because it's still doing its own thing, because they are separated by their own network relay devices, so they operate separately. So that's it. I'm probably going to take this out as soon as I finish it. I look forward to testing it. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't even work properly, because as of the making of this video I haven't actually taken it out in public, so you know, you might do this whole guide and take it out yourself and then realize it doesn't even work. Who knows? I do think 2 might be a bit too much, because 2 of these does slow down my game and it might crash things, I don't know. And one last thing, if you're going to use any moving parts on your ship, like these turrets, then be careful not to move the turrets after you've spawned your ship. Make sure you wait a little bit after you've spawned a ship before you use any moving parts, because there's a bug where everything flips and breaks and inverts if you move moving parts too soon after you've spawned the ship. Okay, so thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.